Feels like unfinished business, obviously. That's 7 months delayed or so. Does it feel good to kind of be able to get this one done and get it out of the way and kind of move on with the division?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we were trying to get this thing done in April, and even that was a little bit late. I mean, people don't remember, but it's only, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, we couldn't even do fights with audiences. It was a very awkward time. So I'm glad to have this final done now, and I think it's going to be a great fight. I think like who's going to win, I don't know, but I think they're both in shape, ready to go. So I'm excited.
I mean, do you feel like, obviously they had 15 minutes with each other, so they're both going to have made some adjustments, but the odds makers flipped this thing completely. It did a 180. I mean, Nemkov was the favorite the first time around. Now Corey is by a pretty hefty margin. So,
well, I'll tell you, I'm not an odds maker, and I can't predict the future. But one thing in an MMA fight, you never know what's going to happen, right? One little slip, one little mistake, you're getting submitted or you get knocked out. And when I think about changing camps, coming to Florida early, train ATT with all the killers that they have over there with Dan Lambert, I think it was a very good move. And let's see if it works out for him tomorrow night.
Talk a little bit about the co-main too. Obviously, Patricky making his first defense. I'm sure he's learning a lot from his brother along the way, right? So, but it's rare that you have a champion who is such a heavy underdog when it comes to the betting odds. It's pretty hefty. So, what do you feel about that fight?
I'll tell you, Usman is the real deal, and that's why we signed him. He's in there training with Habib every day, Javier Mendez every day. He's in a great camp, and I've gone down there a couple times because they're in San Jose, and I live there, and they're grinding it out, man. These guys are working hard. So I can see why people think that might be the case, but there's something to say about experience, right? You can't underestimate the experience that Pitbull has in fights like this, and coming from the lineage of him and his brother. They've been I would say the face of Bellator for the last 8 years. Or even before I was here, they were, to me, the face of Bellator. So I think you can't predict what's going to happen, but I think the styles are going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be a very interesting fight, and I think that it's going to be who can execute the game plan better than the other guy. That's what it's going to come down to.
I mean, regardless of who wins, you have, I guess, elite families of the sport, as your champion, whichever one wins.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I think about the family lineage of Usman, it's undeniable, right? I think the record's like 150 something in one, with the Nurmagomedov's family, and then with Patricky and Patricio. Like I said, they've been here so long and they've been ruling and dominating for so long. I think that sometimes people take it for granted. And so I think Usman is not taking it for granted. I think he's trained hard and he wants to come here and win. But he's going to have his hands full. That's all I got to say. I'm really excited about these two fights. These two fights are really, I'm just going to sit down, eat my popcorn, and watch as a fan because, I love the sport. I love watching it. And I love, seeing the elite guys at this level really go at it. And let the better men win tomorrow night.
Scott, when it comes to Usman specifically, do you feel this is a guy who could be Bellator's version of Habib, or are they too different, would you say?
I can answer that question after tomorrow night better. Maybe the post-fight scrum, we can have a good conversation. But listen, I think that when you think about the young fighters that we brought in when I came here, we had Pico, AJ, Stotts, Sabatello, we have Usman. We are committed to building from the ground up. And I think that's something we're very good at. I think we're better than everybody else at building from the ground up. Star identification, who we're going to build, talk to some of our fighting team and talk to the managers and scouts. And I think that we've done a very good job at cultivating the next group of young fighters. And they're here. And I think they're going to be the stars of MMA in the next 10 years.
Absolutely. And I got to mention, what's coming up at the end of the year, the big collaboration with Rizin. Again, just how excited for you to do this. And I mean, great matchups. Is there one that stands out to you that you're most excited for? They're all great.
Well, I'd like to just talk to you about the background of this event. So, Saki Ibarra was in Hawaii. I was in Hawaii, and we said, "Hey, yeah." So, yeah, thank you very much. And so, I said, "Let's get together." And we sat down and we said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" So, this wasn't put together like 6 months ago, 5 months ago. This was really sitting down and saying, "Well, would you consider this?" He asked me, "Would you consider this?" And my response was, "Well, do you want me to bring some of my not so talented guys? Do you want?" He said, no. Bring your best guys and they'll fight my best guys. And I'm like, in my head, I was thinking, are you sure you want to do this? And he's like, yeah, it's the Bushido way, right? This is the warrior way. I said, okay. I said, I'm going to bring AJ, I'm going to bring Pitbull, I'm going to bring a bunch of killers, like get ready. And he's like, no, bring it. And then the more I started learning about their fighters, I said, oh, this guy's pretty good. He better not underestimate him. I want to go 5-0, Sakibara 5-0. So if my guys take it lightly, I think they're going to have their hands full. I think if they take it seriously and they really get down there, and I'm telling my guys, hey, we'll pay for your way to get there early. We'll pay for your hotel rooms to get there early. Don't buy into this 4 days before the fight like they bring Rizin fighters over right now. You're going to be there 10 days early, 14, whatever you need. We're going to support you because I want to go win these fights. So this is like company, league versus league. It's never been done before. Before Sakibara and I, we would be, I'd send Josh Thompson, he would send Aoki or Kawajiri, I would send Gilbert. The one thing I would say is what started this relationship with him really was after the 2006 fight with Shamrock versus Gracie. We really didn't have a lot of fighters on the roster. So I asked him if he would send two fighters over for a main event, and he sent over Alistair Overeem versus Vitor Belfort, right? I said, okay, I might owe this guy a chip now for a while. So that's what started the relationship back in 2006. So sent just a fabulous main event. It wasn't a great fight, but I mean, two of the biggest stars in the sport. And then we kind of got our momentum and started growing and signing, all the guys who signed in Strikeforce. But that was the beginning. And so that's what cultivated this relationship. So there's a lot of trust. There's a lot of, back and forth working. And sometimes, it's not easy to work with other promotions, right? Because they have their own agenda. We have our own agenda. We have our own schedule. They have their own schedule. And it doesn't work out. But with him, there's been a couple of times where it has worked out. And I'm really excited because this is going to be a historical event in mixed martial arts. And listen, if other leagues want to do it, if the timing is right, we can do it. And I think hopefully that will be the future, is that, leagues will open up maybe once a year, once every 2 or 3 years, have a big tournament. Why not? Be like the World Cup. It would be amazing, right?
Yeah, it'd be very
So, we're not going to be the company that stops that from happening. So I think Sakibara would be into it. I think a lot of people will be into it. So we'll see what happens. But I'm really, really excited about New Year's Eve.
You feel like there's ever a shot that the other big company besides you would ever be into it?
Yeah, listen, it hasn't been their business model to do it, but we're game, man. If they want to get it on, let's do it. We got some amazing fighters on this roster now, and it's people say, oh, their fighters are the best, or hey, we'll bring it, let's do it. Like you want to, let's prove it, right? But and I know that's going to be a long stretch, but for us, we'll do it any day.
Well, obviously, the highlight is the 5 fights atop of that card, but Rizin is continuing to add some. They sent out some last night. Is there any chance of any other Bellator fighters just competing, like on the undercard or anything?
Right now we're focusing on the 5 fighters, and we did talk to Shingo a little bit, but I think they have contracts that they have to fulfill with their fighters. But this is a 2-year deal, right? So next year it'll be a Bellator fight there, and it doesn't have to be on New Year's Eve. It could be any time, but it'll be a Bellator fight, fighting their top guys, or like the top 2 or 3 guys, maybe the top guys if they're available, and then they'll fight in a cage, fight under the Bellator rules, not the Japanese rules, and then we can bring our own undercard and this sort of thing. But in this situation, I'll keep asking him, but I think, like I said, they have their own contracts and fighters to fulfill.
When you do that one next year, will it be over there in Japan?
Doesn't have to be.
Okay.
It could be. I think Hawaii might be a good spot to do that. Like meet halfway. So we just haven't talked about the logistics or timing. We wanted to get through our schedule and end of the year, and then we can sit down next year and start talking about that.
And Scott, I wanted to ask you about something. I think you said from your last Dublin trip about Nate Diaz, and you got called out by Mr. Ariel Helwani about the discussions there. Is there any update about?
Basically. What he said was true, was that Nate still under some type of obligation, and so until that obligation is done, which I'm sure my guys are talking to them, then we'll we're not going to get involved. So if there are any free agents out there that are completely free, we'd love to talk to all of them. So it doesn't have to be just one fighter or another. We would like to talk to everybody that's a free agent, but they have to be a free agent. We're not going to interfere with people's contracts.
Speaking of that, real quick, Cyborg news. You obviously would like to have her back. The Zingano fight seems to be up in the air.
Yeah. So with Chris, I told her I would give her a call after this fight. So next week we'll start talking maybe before Thanksgiving.
Because you brought up Nate, I'm sure you saw the little situation with him and Dylan a couple weeks ago and a few days ago in New York. Any thoughts on that? And then is Dylan back in the fold for you guys ever, or what's going on there?
Dylan, listen, it's I don't have an update on Dylan. I really don't. And I just think that, look, if fighters are going to fight for free, please give me a call, right? But you're a professional athlete. You should be fighting in the cage for money. But we've had a hard time getting him in the cage, so that's just what it is. And if I have an update, I'll let you guys know.
Obviously, I know you were pretty close with Anthony Johnson. I just wondered how deep into the knowledge of what was going on with him were you, and was it that big of a shock to you that he died, or did you?
Shock.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. Let me tell you, that was not an easy phone call to get, and I just love that guy. He was like a gentle giant. People that really got to know him all loved him. I was getting reports from the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times of Italy and in France and anywhere that we're out there promoting fights. The local newspaper did a story on him. I'm starting to collect it, and it's fascinating. The guy was loved around the world. I think he was loved more than he knew how many fans he had or how much impact he made. And but I met Anthony, I won't say when his career started. He was at Kung Lee's gym fighting at 170. I don't think he was even at the UFC at that time. And he was just in our community, and I got to know him a little bit and followed his career and stayed in touch. And when he became a free agent, we said, "Oh, let's go get this guy," because I think he's a tremendous talent, and I really like to work with him. And then, but just getting to work with him over the last couple of years, it was you never think it's going to have an ending like this so short. So it was a devastating day, but. Man, I tell you what, we're going to put on a great kick-ass show for him tomorrow. We're going to tribute. Bellator is going to represent a big fight card, a great night of fights in honor of Rumble tomorrow. And he's, it's just unfortunate. I knew he was in and out of the hospital, right? So we monitor. I have me and him texting like 2 months ago, right? And he's like, "Hey man, I'm getting ready. I'm out of the hospital. I want to go fight." And I'm like, "Hey, there's more to life than just fighting. Just take your time, and and when you're ready and the doctors clear you." I had no idea that he was this ill, and I think that he didn't know. Maybe even I don't know. So, when the families give us some time, give it a beat, and then I'll try to get some more information. But right now, this came a shock to us and the whole company because everybody loved that guy. Our entire staff just really, really, really cared about him. So it was devastating. It was a big loss.
Scott, on a lighter note, we have the two biggest fights of the card. Is there another fight that you're looking at and saying this fight's going to be a banger? Everybody tune in and watch this fight.
Boy, I tell you, there is a couple. I think I tell you, I can't think of one specifically, but when I look at this card from top to bottom, it's stacked. And when I think about Usman fighting Patricky and Rumble, the fight between Nemkov and Corey. To me, it's like that's it. What else do you need? That's something. Like I said, I'm just sit down and watch it and get ready for the fireworks because that's a big fight card. And I think that fans are going to show up, and fans appreciate a fight card like this. So. We're expecting a packed house in there tomorrow night.
You're back in Chicago for the first time in about 3.5 years. How important is this destination to you in terms of your schedule? And do you hope to be back here at some point next year, maybe around this time again or earlier? Because you guys would sometimes switch it up either in the spring or in the summer. So I was just curious if after this card, is Chicago still a destination for you?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Brendan, but we were on our way here when COVID hit, right? So when COVID hit, we had a scheduled date already, I think at the other Allstate Arena.
Yep.
So there was a date on the books, and we were going to work towards that, but then COVID hit, everything got shut down. And then coming out of COVID, really, it's only been 6 months, 8 months, kind of, where we've been looking for venues and places to go. And this was a big target for us as far as developing this market and fight fans and just delivering great fight cards. And it was really Danny Brenner that said, hey, don't forget about Chicago, let's go. And I said, a great idea, let's go. And that's how we got here.
Do you think when you do come back, will it continue to be in the city versus out in the, I'm from around here. Rosemont's a hike for a lot of people. And in terms of for what your guys can do during fight week, you don't just walk out of the hotel and just, walk on Michigan Avenue. It's a hike. Yeah. So will you continue to come downtown versus being in the suburbs?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we identified this venue early on, but it just wasn't available. And availability, is sometimes a big factor, and it's a big factor in where we go and when we can go. But I tell you what, I do like the location, and I do like the location of the hotel next to the venue. You just walk right across the hall, and you're in the fight venue. I think it's amazing. So I'm excited about being there for the first time, and hopefully we'll have many days to come.
A very exciting lightweight is on the card tomorrow night. Archie Colgan, undefeated. Would you say that he's one of the promotion's top prospects at this point?
Yeah, I think that my guys have a lot of hopes for him. So let's see what happens. I mean, to me, that's the nice thing about having these events is that you get to test your skill against somebody that's qualified, and then you either move forward or you take a step back, and let's see how he does. Because we have about 5, 6, maybe 10 of the next the group of fighters that we want to start building and testing, and we're going to give them a platform. And so if they can do well, they'll move forward. If not, they'll take a step back, and some people might have to go. That's just how this business is.
And overall, how happy are you with how these two cards turned out? 288 with these two title fights, 289 the two Grand Prix semifinals, and Liz Carmouche's title fight.
Yeah, I mean, come on, this is something very special. I'm really since the fight we had in Dublin, I think that our fights have just been delivering one after another, and really this card I think is going to be amazing. I think December 9th is going to be amazing. I think New Year's Eve is going to be amazing, and we're about to announce a set of fights going into next year that's just going to be unbelievable. So it's going to be great.
Have you had any deep dish this week?
Any which one?
Any deep dish pizza this week?
Not yet, but I just got here. There's time.
Yeah, still time.
Fishman's going to take me out to have some pizza later, but he's back there. But I mean, this is the home of the pizza. I have a story here about in Chicago. One time I was here with Andrew Galata, and he took me to his pizza place. And getting there was a nightmare because the guy is like the craziest driver I've ever been in a car with. But him and Dr. Dave, my friend, and we went and had deep dish somewhere downtown, and I got to look it up because it was amazing pizza.
Thank you, man.
Take care, guys.
Thank you, Scott.